Alrighty, my friends. Welcome to video lesson number 4. In this lesson, we'll be discussing adding titles to your work using the Type tool in Premiere. And once again, we'll be using the montage project for the purposes of demonstration. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do here is add a title to the first 4 shots in the montage project. Each one of these shots will have a title over it. And what I'm going to do is have those titles fly at us while simultaneously blurring and fading in and out. On the first shot, I'm going to title the piece Montage. On the second one, it's going to say A Film by Luc Besogna. On the third one, it'll say An LB Media Production. And then on the fourth one, it'll say Sound Design by Luc Besogna. And I'm going to create one title that does the motion and the blurring in and out, and then I'm going to copy that and just change the text on the following 3 shots so I don't have to do the animation work 4 times, only once. Alright, so to get started, what I'm going to do is simply utilize the Type tool down here, which you can also activate by using the keyboard shortcut T, and I'm going to just simply type onto the screen. I'm going to click here and start typing. And I'm going to call this Montage. And you can see it's not centered. No problem there. We'll just utilize the controls to do that. And you can see now that I've typed this on here, I actually have a piece of media that's been generated down here in the timeline at the location of my playhead. So I'm going to drag that piece of media over and trim it down so that it lines up with the shot that I want to have this title over. And then I'm going to actually manipulate this piece of text. So with that piece of media highlighted, I can actually go to the effect controls up here and control it. I can change the size. I can add a shadow to it if I want to. I can do various things like change the font that I'm using as well. I'm going to stick with the Minion Pro bold font here. And I'm going to get a separate set of controls that are now offered in Premiere to manipulate text. So if I go up to Window, Essential Graphics, you can see it launches another panel here. And under the Browse tab here, you can see there are all kinds of presets that you can utilize simply by just dragging and dropping into your timeline. But for our purposes today, I'm going to go to the Edit tab, and you can see my piece of montage text is located right here. Click on it, and I get all kinds of controls, most of which are similar to the regular effects controls here, but there are a couple of extra ones, like these alignment tools right here. These are very helpful. So what I'm going to do, first of all, is utilize the justification area here to center the text, and that is centering the text within itself. And now if I want to center it horizontally on screen, I'll use the horizontal center button here, and you can see it perfectly centers it on screen. If I wanted to do that vertically, I'd use the vertical center button. And now I've got my montage text perfectly centered both horizontally and vertically. Now I'm going to grab my selection tool here, and you can see I go from a text editing box around the word to a sizing and placement related box. So now if I actually click on this, I can move it around. Okay? So I want to have this slightly higher than perfectly vertical center. And then I'm going to horizontally center it once again, just to make sure it's dialed in perfectly. And now I also want to make sure you guys understand about safe margins. So if I go over to the wrench here, on the program panel, click that, and go down and select safe margins, you can see that I get these boxes that are close to the edge of the frame. The outside box is called Action Safe. The inside box is called Title Safe. And the reason these are here are to keep your text and the movement of characters and other objects on screen safely located inside the edge of the frame so that they don't get accidentally cut off on different viewing devices. So just be aware that you don't want to have your text, in particular here, go outside this inside title safe box. Cool. Now you can see the background's quite busy and my text is getting a little bit lost in that. So what I'm going to do is manipulate the background to accommodate my text. So I'm going to click on this clip here that's behind it, go to the effect controls, and then go down to effects and find my good friend, the Gaussian blur. Type in GAU and that brings up the Gaussian blur. I click and hold and drag that onto my background and go over to the blurriness control and I'm going to bring that up to about 20. Now you can see the background is softly blurred and my text stands out much better. If I play through this, it's much more easily readable. So the next thing I want to do is add a drop shadow to this, which will actually help it to be a little bit more readable, stand out from the background just a little bit better. So I'm going to go over to my Essential Graphics control here, pull this slider down, and go to the appearance area and add a shadow. Click in that box next to shadow, and you can see I have the ability to control various aspects of that shadow. The angle at which it appears on screen, I'm going to stick with about 130 here. And then the distance away from the word that it's behind, see that? Okay, I'm going to stick with something like, I don't know, 10. And then the softness of the shadow itself, bring that up to about maybe 55 or so. That looks nice. I'm going to stick with that. So the next thing I want to do is actually animate this piece of text. So I'm going to bring my playhead to the very beginning of that piece of text and then go over to my effects controls, pull my slider down and head on over to the transform control here. So what I want to do is make this sort of fly at us, and I'm going to do that by using scale. I'm going to make it grow on screen and thereby appear to fly toward us. So the first thing I want to do is enter my first keyframe by hitting the little stopwatch button over here, and that's going to give us a keyframe at 100% scale. You can see there's the edge of my little keyframe right there. You can see I've got a blue indicator here that I've added a keyframe. So that basically says at this point in time, I want this piece of text to be 100% of its normal size. So now what I'm going to do is go to the end of the shot and have that piece of text grow to about, I don't know, 110%. Let's try that. And now you can see over the length of the shot, it grows, appearing to fly toward us. Pretty cool. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually bring it down just a little bit. So to move the text vertically and keep its horizontal center just right, I'm going to click on the box here and hold down the shift key, and that makes it so that it moves perfectly straight up and down. If I don't do that, I take the chance of accidentally moving it left or right and having to recenter it. All right. So I'm going to click, hold, hit shift, and drag it down just slightly. Yeah, nice. All right, so now what I want to do is make this text blur in and blur out. So again, I'm going to go back to the well over here in effects and grab my good friend, the Gaussian blur. Drag that effect on, pull my slider down, and manipulate my Gaussian blur controls. And of course, blurriness is what I want to change here. So I'm going to start out at the very beginning of the shot with a very high blurriness value. I'm going to go for 100. You can see it blurs the word considerably. And I'm going to enter my first keyframe with my stopwatch control here. You can see, pops on screen. And I'm going to say maybe, I don't know, 15 frames into this, the blurriness will stop. Go back down to a value of 0. There we go, perfectly clear. So now you can see over that 15 frame period, it goes from blurry to clear. Let's play and check that out. There it is, cool. Now I wanted to do that at the end of the shot as well. So I'm gonna say about 1.5 seconds before the end of the shot, I'm gonna have this blur out. So we're at 428, so I'm gonna go back to something like 313 or so here. And enter another keyframe to indicate that I want it to be clear at this point. And then I'm gonna go to the end of the shot and change that blurriness value to 100 once again. There we go. Now we'll see the montage title blur in and blur out. Okay, so that's really cool. But at the same time, I want it to fade in and fade out. So I'm going to use cross dissolves to accomplish this, and I'm going to time them with the blurriness. So my first blur takes about 15 frames. So I'm going to right click, apply default transitions, and double click on that cross dissolve. And it looks like it's 1 second long. I only want it to be 15 frames to be timed with my blur. Enter that. And then I'm going to put another one here at the end and set that one to 1 second and 15 frames. There we go. Now if we play through, it will blur in, blur out, and fade out while flying toward us. Very cool. Okay, so now that I have established this look here, all I have to do is copy this title and use it on the other 3 shots and simply change the text while preserving this animation. I'm going to click on the title itself, hold, and press and hold the Option key and drag the title over while still holding the Option key, let go with the mouse, and then let go of the Option key. And you can see I've made an exact copy of my title. Zoom in here a bit. It looks like my timing's just a little bit off. I'm going to drag this over. Zoom in even more. Make sure it's perfectly aligned. Trim this out. There we go. Very nice. Now, if I play through, you can see one will blur and fade out, and the other will blur and fade in. Cool. So what I want this to say is a film by Luc Besogna. So I'm going to click on the title here, make sure it's selected, and grab my type tool here and change what it says. Just clicking in, selecting it, and typing a film by Return Luc Besogna. Now that's a little bit big. So I'm going to need to change the size of this to accommodate my title safe here, especially when it grows. It's getting way too big there. So I'm going to go to my Essential Graphics controls and head on down to the size of the text here. I have a slider for that. And I'm going to bring it down to say, I don't know. Let's go to the end of the shot here and make sure that I don't get outside of title safe. Just about there, 155 or so. Let's try that. All right, now let's check this. Okay, so this is a little bit low. I want to raise it a little bit, so I'm going to go back and grab my selection tool. And you can see I get my motion and size control box here. Click, hold shift, and drag it up just a little bit. so that it looks a little bit more centered on screen. Play through again and check it. Nice. All right, so let's do that again. Remember, to copy, all I need to do is click on the title, hold down the Option key, and drag over, creating my copy and placing it in the timeline. Nice. Trim this back just a little bit here. And now I'm going to change this copy to say the next thing I want it to. And that's going to be an LB Media production. Grab my type tool once again. Click in on screen here. And type out what I want. All right, cool. Now, it looks like the background, again, is going to be a bit of a problem here with my text. It's a little bit busy, and my text is a little bit tough to read on that. So what I'm going to do, instead of blurring the background, is actually reduce the opacity. This is a downtown nighttime city scene, so I'm just going to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to click on the piece of media itself, go up to my effect controls, and twirl down opacity. And what I'm going to do is drop the opacity on this, just clicking, holding, and dragging to the left, and making the city just a little bit darker, helping my text to stand out just a little bit more. Now let's play through and check it. Cool. I like that. Okay, so let's utilize our process once again. Click on the title, hold down Option, drag, place in the timeline, and alter the text. Last thing I'm going to have it say here is sound design by Luke Bisogna. Okay, cool. Let's play through that and check it. I like it. All right, now let's play through the whole sequence here. Zoom out just a little bit and check our titles. Very cool. A nice stylized title sequence created relatively simply using the type tool and just a few effects. Gaussian blur, a bit of motion generated with scale and some keyframing, and simple cross dissolves. And you can see that all comes together to create a stylized and professional looking title sequence. Well, that about does it for video lesson number 4, my friends. I'll see you again for video lesson number 5.